Hello there, Tony Baker from Six String Country, back at you with another quick video to look at a chronological view of Brooks and Dunn and the guitar playing. We just released the course, Brooks and Dunn, a chronological guitar study, which takes the hits we have on Brooks and Dunn on the site, which are a lot of them, and goes in order from when they were released. Which is kind of interesting in my opinion, because you can get a pretty good idea of the style of guitar playing and kind of how it morphed throughout the years. Another thing that makes this interesting is that Brent Mason played guitar on pretty much all these records. There's oftentimes a lot of different studio musicians, so it can be a little hard to tell exactly which pieces Brent Mason played on. But certainly most of the solos and a lot of the lead lines, at least, that we're going to be looking at here were done by Brent Mason. And he's a monster guitar player. And we know he can play really fast, really technically, right? But a lot of these lead lines and even some of the solos are on the simpler side of things. So we're going to look at how that all plays into how the song sounds. So let's jump right in here in 1991 and get going with Brand New Man, which was the title track on the record. Let's take a look at just some highlights here. We're not going to go through all of them. I think we go through maybe 6 or 7 of them in order of the years they were released and see what the guitar playing is like. So let's jump right in on Brand New Man. All right, here's the first lead line. All right, again, so nothing real flashy there, right? It really adds nicely to the texture of the song, and it fits in really nicely with what all the other instruments are doing. So let's go ahead a little bit. Let's see if we can get to the guitar solo, because this is a pretty recognizable guitar solo. Once again, not flashy, right? But this part is, this part has some pick in. But then we get to this, well, I think we play it up here. Not flashy, but melodic, memorable. And then he hits you with a nice, like, country riff. Right? But it's a really well-crafted solo, and we're going to be seeing this a lot as we go through these from Brent Mason and Brooks and Dunn. All right, so that was Brand New Man, a big hit for him. Off that same album is Neon Moon, and this has a different guitar style, but there's some similarities that we're going to talk about. So let's bring up the jam along video here and take a look. All right, once again, it's just it's outlining an A chord, right? It feels really good, and it's simple enough that it's memorable, and it fits right in with what everybody else is doing. So let's move ahead a little bit. Let's check out this solo. So once again, Brent Mason could play way flashier than this, but he doesn't choose to here. It's a very nice, simple sounding solo. Now some of it's harder than it looks. That takes a lot of touch, a lot of feel to get that to sound right and right tone and everything. So I'm not minimizing what Brent Mason's doing. I'm actually putting it up on a pedestal a little bit. I mean, it's really tasteful parts that just fit perfectly into the song and give you some memorable lines, almost like a melody line in there, right, that someone could sing. Let's move on to 1994 with You're Gonna Miss Me When I'm Gone. This was off the record Waiting on Sundown. And one of my favorite songs, I just love the feel of this one. Maybe we'll take a look at the acoustic guitar part on this one first. What's your favorite Brooks and Dunn song? Let us know. We've got a lot of Brooks and Dunn on the website, featured in this course, but we're missing some. You know, what would you like to see from us that we haven't covered yet on sixstringcountry.com? Let us know. All right, let's take a look at this. All right, so the acoustic guitar is really driving this one at first, and what the electric guitar is doing there is mimicking what, in reality, the pedal steel was doing. So if you have a pedal steel player, you just let them do that. But if not, that can be a really fun thing to do on the electric guitar that will contribute to what your band's trying to get across. The acoustic is driving it with a... And I just love that part. I love these kind of split chords, the C over G, and it does a kind of gives you a little bit of a melodic line in there. The other cool thing I like about this one on electric guitar is that Brent Mason really sits out until verse 2. And I always try and take note of that, not always, you know, focusing on what people are playing, but when aren't they playing? Because that matters a great deal too. It gives a song the space that it needs a lot of times. Then we get to verse 2, and Brent Mason comes up with another simple but important part there. And then at the end, in verse 3, I think it is, let's go there a minute, then Brent Mason's doing a few cool riffs here. All I hear are alibis. Those are really tasteful riffs, in my opinion. I love those. They fit right in between the line musically. He's not playing over the singer ever. He's waiting until the line's done, then coming up with his own little counter melody. Really, on a guitar, it's like call and response. They sing a line, and he plays a line in response, a melodic musical line. Nothing flashy, but very well played, very nice tone, very appropriate for what the song needed. All right, so that's that one of my favorites. Let's move on to 1996. We have My Maria. And we're skipping over a bunch here that are in the course, just for time's sake. But let's do My Maria here. I've always liked this song. And it actually, as most of you probably know, was not originally done by Brooks and Dunn, but by B.W. Stevenson. His version has a very similar opening riff, but it was done in standard tuning, in the key of E. They moved this one to E flat standard tuning, and the reason they do that most of the time, because the singer wants to sing a little lower, save his voice, because that's usually the reason to have a bunch of musicians take the time to tune their guitars down a half step. All right, so let's take a look here. This one's got another great acoustic opener. So this one, again, is very sparse on the electric, and that can be a very important way to make a song sound the way you want it, to tell people to sit out or to decide to sit out, and save your moment for later when this time is right in the song. All right, so we got this cool acoustic riff, very recognizable, and they kept that pretty much the same from the B.W. Stevenson recording. And they took they changed it up a little bit as the song goes on. And this is one where the lead guitar player is going to have a really nice solo that we'll look at. And then after that, they just keep playing underneath the chorus, which is very repetitive, which I think is what makes it work. That's such a recognizable and kind of an earworm that the listener has already heard it so many times in the song that it's appropriate to do a little something underneath that, or maybe over it, however you want to look at it. And I think it works. Let's take a look. Here's the solo. might be a little unusual to have a guitar player just keep soloing while the singer starts singing the chorus again. For all the reasons we already talked about, I think it works there, and it's some nice guitar playing. Now let's jump ahead to 2003 to the Red Dirt Road album with the song Red Dirt Road as the title track. Let's see what we got here. So again, this has kind of turned into a running theme with some of these Brooks and Dunn hits. And it's obviously a pretty important part of their sound at this point, right? Repetitive, but still melodic. Memorable. I mean, you got this note the whole time, but the melody is really very singable, and if you repeat it for however many times at the intro there, that's going to stick in people's heads and they're going to remember it. So that's another good example of that in Brooks and Dunn's music. Let's see what we got for the solo. That lead line keeps playing in the background for the guitar solo, but they solo with a slide. And I've always thought the slide sounds melodic. Like if you're doing it right, it's a line that you could hear somebody singing, right? And that's exactly what I feel is happening on this solo. It's nothing too flashy, but it's a nice melody that they're putting over that guitar riff that's already going on. And then it comes back in the outro. Another great example of some classic Brooks and Dunn style guitar work. All right, now let's move ahead to 2005, Play Something Country. All right, so we're getting into the mid-2000s here in the country music scene, and we can start to hear things sound maybe a little bit different. But I don't know, what do you guys think? It still sounds like Brooks and Dunn, I think, but does this sound a little different once we start getting up into the mid-2000s? All right, this is just a fun song on guitar. It's country blues, but even that intro, I can't really do it well on acoustic. Pretty simple, heavier, crunchier, but it's 1, 2, 3, 4 notes. And it's a little bit like the vocal line, isn't it? It's a little different, probably done on purpose. It's a little different. It's crunchy, and it sets up the vocal part that's about to come in perfectly. All right, let's take a look at some of the heavier parts. So that's a pretty rockin' solo, right? It's heavily overdriven. It's bluesy. It almost feels like an old southern rock feel. And that solo in particular would probably fit well in a bunch of 80s rock songs. Like it's got some very cool different phrasings and riffs. And it's still melodic, but he lets it rip there. He really lets it rip there. And the other thing I like there is what the rhythm guitar player is doing over the choruses. He switches it up from the standard, and he does this. Which to me is a cool take on a very old idea, the 12-bar blues, right? That's basically what we're doing in this song. And it gives the song a little more character. Let's move on to another song from 2005, Hillbilly Deluxe. And this is another really fun guitar song. Let's see what the intro looks like. So that's a little busier than a typical Brooks and Dunn intro from the 1990s or the early 2000s, right? Got a little more going on there. It's not as repetitive, but that's probably a little reflective of the sound going at the time. It was really swampy. It was rocking. It felt good. Felt real southern rocky to me. Let's take a look at the chorus into the solo. So coming out of the chorus, you know, the chorus chords. It's the same chord progression as Sweet Home Alabama, along with a lot of other songs, a lot of other Southern rock songs. And that's part of what's giving it that kind of high energy Southern rock feel. The solo is interesting. I thought whoever played that, probably Brent Mason, kept it a little more melodic, a little sparser in his playing, but still really powerful and really nice country blues riffs going on there. And then at the very end of the song, of course, he lets loose and rips off some incredibly phrased, cool sounding country blues riffs. So that's a quick look at a few songs from our new course, Brooks and Dunn, a chronological guitar study. There's a lot more meat on the bone there. Head over to the site, check it out, like, share, and subscribe. And of course, as always, you know, this is just what I think about this stuff. I want to hear what you guys think. What do you think? What's your favorite Brooks and Dunn guitar solo, or what's your favorite Brooks and Dunn song? Do you like this kind of content? Let us know. If you want to hear something else, you want to see something else on our YouTube channel here, we always love to hear from you, and we try to give you what you want. Thanks for watching, and happy playing.